Soar able to go in there after the opening play. And as this went on, the moment that Rem got the first kill and took down Edge, there was no chance for MVP.
It was just a slaughter there in the last fight, and everybody on the side of GC Busan was really showing their stuff. The damage chart's not really going to reflect some of this because, you know, the Zoe, the Victor, and the Ezreal are all going to be poking a lot in lane and getting those damage charts very high, but just the teamwork that came through from even Ryan and Minute going into the jungle, picking up that first blood, Soar doing the nice solo kill up on the top side, and Rem just making Akali look super OP right now.
It's not about the damage numbers, because remember, everyone's squishy, so people die pretty fast. You don't end up just doing 10,000 damage to Mundo in lane. It's the share. There was almost an equal share for 4 members on the side of GC Busan, and the jungler of all people was doing the most damage. So shout out to GC Busan. They want to be the first team to advance from this first round in the KeSPA Cup, and with a performance like that, if they roll it back, I think we could be quick work of MVP. MVP need to adjust a lot of stuff coming into game number 2.
Yeah, and they don't really look too happy after that one. We saw a very serious discussion between Edge and now Revenger, the 2 bigger just veterans on the team. You know, they've been around for quite a while, the 2 of them, and just trying to figure out exactly what went wrong. Sad game for the Zoe, for Edge in the mid lane. Didn't really do too much wrong, but, you know, was just being pummeled in and out by the mid laner and the jungle, whereas Revenger not really able to do much after getting so far behind on the Camille.
GC Busan will come on the blue side. Will they keep the same strategy? Because you'll remember MVP trying to ban away OP picks and GC Busan just banning supports and saying, hey, let's leave as many flex assassins available. We're able to play it. Because if that ends up being the problem, if it ends up that MVP's champion pools don't overlap with some of what is strong, which is pretty much anything that does huge amounts of burst damage, that's going to be a significant issue when we get into the game 2 draw.
And it looks like we are ready to jump into that right now. Pick and ban, and as you mentioned, GC Busan will be on the blue side this time around. Already getting into some of the bans, Aurelia and Camille taken off the plate already.
Was Cassiopeia, Aurelia, Tahm Kench for MVP. In game number 1, we shift to red side. Of course, things change a bit, but the support bans from GC Busan will at least include the Thresh. Watching on the side of MVP, who really don't want to deal with Aatrox Akali as a duo again. The flex assassins that can go between either top and mid lane. And actually, Valdez, we didn't talk about this, a lot of Aatrox jungle from some of our KeSPA Cup junglers is still around even after the little nerf to Aatrox jungle on patch 8.24. Cassiopeia will be banned on blue side this time by GC Busan. Another flex pick, and flex strength is going to be a recurring trend of both worlds and the KeSPA Cup.
You were mentioning how you were surprised not to see the Aatrox first pick on the side of MVP. They're going to ban it away. They don't want to deal with Soar or Ryan or Rem or anyone playing the Aatrox on the side of GC Busan, but the ban on the Camille is also interesting. They definitely seem to prioritize that Camille very highly on this patch.
And GC Busan just say, thank you very much, I'll take the Victor. Remember, it was Aatrox into Victor that needed a bit of help, needed a bit of snowball, eventually went the way of the Aatrox. Now it's Victor without Aatrox on the board. So interesting to see what Carrot will take an answer. Will we finally see our first Nico? We will. And already the question is, where is the Nico going? There'll be less suspects if the Varus locked in. And this is actually, feels like a bit of a reach for Varus. They'll take it first round. So it doesn't look like we will have Nico bot lane, but small chance given that we had a bit of UCal mid lane Varus in summer season of LCK.
Definitely does feel a little bit confusing for the side of MVP and their pick bans. We saw the Lucian banned out by GC Busan in game number 1. Definitely one of the stronger 80 carries that is left available. We'll see if they do want to play it into the bottom side with the Tahm Kench, though. Everybody remembers Tahm Kench and Ezreal, big-time duo from 2018. Looks like that still is pretty strong as they're considering picking it up here on the left side.
Mu and Minute, who were a duo on Kongdu Monster in Challenger last season. Now, they weren't the starters, so they do have some inbuilt synergy, but not a lot of stage time. Seems like it's going to go for Ultra Comfort. Could be a Longzhu Gaming or Kingzone draft here. Could be Prey and Gorilla on those duos. It's going to be some Ultra safety. They don't want to allow MVP to play through the bot side. MVP going to go for some pretty non-interactive. Seems like all the action's going to be top side, Valdez, if we do get Braum Varus against the Ezreal and Tahm Kench. So Varus buffs today on patch 824B around his W and W active when the Q is put out, so that combo. It's a bit more burst damage there on the Varus. Want to give him a bit more power. He's probably still going to be jumping onto the old build, even with all the changes that have come through onto Rageblade, once again remade in Riot's eyes. Probably still going to be Rageblade Varus on the side of MVP.
I wouldn't expect that to change all too much. We'll see what they want to bring into their composition alongside the Nico, who can start a team fight and end it with her ultimate if she does get that off in a fantastic position. We'll have to go with something a little bit more aggressive in the top and jungle side, though, so we'll see how they want to round out their comp.
Now, do they ban Akali, is what I was running, and they do go for the Akali ban to MVP, because Nico, kind of like Zoe, doesn't like people that can close the distance fast and burst her down. LeBlanc and Akali, prototypes of that. So that is a good secondary ban on the side of MVP, and Aurelia, of course, was already off the board much earlier. So, seems like the Nico mid lane is going to have, on paper at least, a matchup she can contend with. I wonder if the Zed or something crazy would be unleashed by Rem here. Fiora ban does come through. Mid lane Fiora, funnily enough, a thing in solo queue, mostly because it can lane into the Aurelia very well. So Fiora versus Aurelia mid lane could be a later thing. The Galio doesn't get picked or banned so far. I wonder if that will be considered into Nico as we get to the second round. MVP, a top laner. Wow, a Rumble.
Okay, you know, it's something that's always been around, but we didn't really expect it here in this position. We saw Carrot on the Victor top. Now he's going to go for another type of caster and a magic damage dealer in the Rumble, but it's a lot of magic damage already, the Rumble and the Nico, on top of also Varus, who has that in his kit, so we'll see how that works out for them.
Now, Ryze versus Nico has lockdown CC for a damage jungler. What about the Kha'Zix that Ryan was able to play so well, or another damage jungler? I'm expecting another squishier lineup here from GC Busan. Ryze and Tom Kench going to have a bit of beef behind them, but you want a damage jungler, it's going to be the Kindred here. A fallback from Ryan over in the LJL. He brings it back again. This is a favorite of his.
Thinking about a jungler here for Revenger now, Yondu, who is now renamed to Revenger.
Hey.
Didn't like that AP Amumu, but he was just playing around with that. Is going to go over to the Lee Sin, so definitely goes along the lines of those very aggressive assassin-type junglers and just champions overall in this new meta.
I don't know if any player has the mental fortitude to be dictated to like he was on the Camille and then take Amumu into Kindred. That sounds really, really hard to deal with.
Yeah.
So goes for the Lee Sin, wants to be a lot more competitive. Remember, can disengage the Lamb's Respite, or at least one person out of it, with the Dragon's Rage kick. Lee Sin right up there in the meta. We did see the the adjustment of the build in game number 1. Remember, we did not see the Tiamat build after the damage, the gold cost was increased on this patch 824B. Lee Sin, another jungler who likes to pick up that Tiamat. We'll wait and see if Revenger's going to pick it up. Revenger really wants to pick himself up. He is the experienced player on the side of MVP. Needs to show a lot better performance than he did in game number 1.
That is very true. I mean, he wants to get aggressive on that Lee Sin. We'll see if it does work out for him, and I'm super excited for the Nico, especially. Edge is going to be bringing that into the mid lane up against what they seem to think is the Victor. Now, I suppose this could happen, but not really what we were expecting.
It does end up being the flex. We'll get the confirmation as we get into game, but just wants to wave clear against the Nico. So it's not going to be as much forcing Rem and Ryan to play super aggressively around mid. They want to just farm instead, but a matchup that Nico will be very comfortable in, you imagine, and they just don't want to deal. Apparently with the top lane matchup, seems like Rumble and his ability to layer down that ult and maybe tie up the Victor. Is this a counter pick? Is this just the preference on the side of GC Busan? We'll learn later.
Guys, we are going to have another interview with now the GC Busan coach, as we spoke to Maha, the MVP coach, first time around. So far, you've had a great performance. How do you feel going into the second match? First match was super easy. I think the second match should be the same level of easiness.
Damn.
So what did you really love about the first match?
현재 5명의 선수 중 누가 좀 자신감이 가장 차올라 있는 상황인가요?
아무래도
저번 시즌에 그
So if you had to pick one particular player who has been the most confident so far,
네.
who would it be?
자신감이 차 있고 그래서 빅토르를 해서 아마 또 잘하지 않을까 이 세트도
아,
그렇게 생각하고 있습니다.
네, 소알 선수가 이 GC 부산 가운데에서도 경험이 굉장히 많은 선수잖아요.
네네.
또 승강장에서 말씀하셨다시피 MVP를
I think it was Soar that they were talking about the top laner there.
에서도 좀 가장 주목을 하고
And
계신가요?
the Aatrox that he was able to
저는
pick
지금
up in game
원딜한테
one.
좀 생각이 있고요. 원딜이 아무래도 이번 시즌 처음 데뷔전인데 원딜이 좀
Which player are you
긴장감 극복해서
watching
잘했으면 좋겠다
on the side of
생각하고
MVP?
두 번째 뱀픽은 첫 번째 세트만큼이나 좀 마음에 드시나요?
있습니다. 네, 저희가 원래 연습하던 대로 다 뽑았고요.
Maybe they were talking about who would be the MVP
승률이
of their
거의
team.
안 진다고 생각해요.
I think that would be the bot side,
잘 되지 않을까 생각하고 있습니다.
the
첫 번째
80
세트
carry.
워낙
Sorry,
공격적인
I can't really hear.
경기력으로
Okay, I'm
완벽하게
getting it back.
가져가셨기 때문에 지금 이렇게 자신감 넘치는
So it
코치님의
seems
발언
like
역시 경기에 기대가
they're really
확실히
showing
높이는 것
so
같습니다.
much confidence.
기대하도록 하겠습니다. 인터뷰 고맙습니다.
감사합니다.
From
자,
game
이렇게 해서
number
두 번째
one. So
세트를
hopefully that
앞두고
boosts you
있는
to the
GC 부산
victory
라이징 스타의 코치님과
going
얘기
into
나눠봤습니다.
game number two. Thank you for the interview. And, well, some strong words from the GC Busan coach who seems to think, bot side doing really well and also just their team is very confident and very deserving of a second win easily. Let's see if they can pick that up.
I'm just excited to get into this one. Seems like a lot of, not necessarily platitudes, but he just seems to say, well, we won and we're going to win again. And I appreciate the confidence coming through. Joss are definitely a bit different here. I like some of the bans from MVP to shut down some of the counters to Nico.
Yeah.
And I just need to see Nico come in because when you see a Lee Sin enter your lane, you're thinking, you're going through all the different angles that a insect kick can kick you or the way that he can close the distance. Now if the Lee Sin comes in, is it Lee Sin or is it Nico? Is suddenly, for the first time in competitive play in Korea,
Yeah.
something to think about because just how you stand in lane is always going to be affected when someone comes in. You want to walk away, obviously, but how you do. Do you need to stay away from a brush if it's a Rengar? Are you worried about a W into a ward jump coming through from the Lee Sin? Those little mind games and suddenly surprise Nico is going to be a really fun thing to try. Might not see it in this game. Fingers crossed we see something cool.
Yeah, I mean, even a Lee Sin, you're talking about the Nico trying to pretend to be a Lee Sin, but how about a Lee Sin trying to pretend to be a Nico, just kind of runs at you and doesn't use an ability, because if you use an offensive ability, it shows that you're Nico, but in your ult, you can get that off before they can really see it, before it's too late. So Lee Sin could just kind of run at you, pretending like he's doing the Nico ultimate, and then all of a sudden go for some kind of flash insect play and get behind you, and it's like, oh crap, that was the real Lee Sin. There's so many mind games.
I wasn't
As long
ready
as
for your
everybody's-
next level, but it's out
I
there.
played a lot of Nico. I've seen a lot of stuff, and as long as everybody's off the map and that kind of communication is, we're not exactly sure who's who or who's where, some fun stuff could definitely happen.
And it's all about threat range, because when someone comes into your lane, if you've played the game quite a lot, if you're a veteran like you and I, you think about, okay, what abilities they have, what ranges they have, how far away, when do I need to flash? That all changes when you don't know if that person is Nico or who is being represented in the lane. So that's kind of the interesting thing to talk about there, but there could also be the reverse bait if the ward's in the right spot to pick up some of the snafus and false plays. Maybe you have to ward more camps, kind of like against an Evelyn, to say, okay, well, someone's on their camp, so it's definitely the person that appears rather than the Nico, things like that. So the mind games are going to be learned. They're going to be uncovered over a very long time. Nico's in the game forever now. That's what we know. No champion has been removed. There's been some champions removed for a while, but never removed fully, except I guess kind of Old Graves was removed.
I guess so, yeah. The new Graves is not really the same champion. Rise has also been changed a billion times. But he's
Aatrox.
still technically Rise.
If you could bring back one, if you could necro one champion and bring them back, who would it be?
How about old TF? Let's bring him back.
2 Gs for everyone.
It was fun, but guys, it looks like game number 2 is on the way here for KeSPA Cup, our first best-of-3 Group D in the round of 16. And already the shenanigans coming out here as MVP Revenger, who is actually Edge, pretending to be Revenger. It's funny that the name also changes because they want to make that as significant as possible.
Now remember, if you impersonate your jungler, disguise yourself as your jungler, the question the enemy asks when they see a Lee Sin and the support walk in is this a late invade to steal a camp? We know the answer is no, but how much you can do at level 1 when there's no deep vision down? Which side did the jungler start on? literally is the question GC Busan has no idea on because of the shenanigans of being able to walk up like that. So I already love the mind game that was played with the fake late invade by MVP.
Yeah, it kind of does reach a next level as he switched to Varus there for just a second, but then he did use an attack there. So it is going to be Nico, and it's just that competitive level of so many different mind games that can be used on the Nico. Can't wait to see what the different teams are going to bring in with the Nico as time goes along.
I'm definitely going to be watching you to see if you can tell us how many levels of Inception or whatever Nico we can give to Inception there. The levels upon levels of mind games you can play just because Nico's passive is so damn unique.
Yeah, definitely one of the champions that you have to play more than once or even more than 5 times to really have a decent idea of what is possible, what could happen. It is going to be, of course, Ryan on the Kindred this time around, so he had a fantastic performance on the Kha'Zix. A little bit different in terms of the way that the Kindred does play in that role, but would be nice to see kind of this jungler come into KeSPA Cup and say, I'm here to bring GC Busan into the LCK eventually. We'll see if he can have a good performance again tonight.
When it comes to lanes to play around, you got to say, top lane, Rai's always been a friend of damaged junglers because of the instant cast CC, so I imagine that's one he'd love to snowball on. And, well, if we learn anything from watching Marin and friends for all these years, Rumble loves to overextend and die around level 4, so we'll see if those timings are enacted by Ryan. Now, Revenger has walked over a ward. Kindred knows he's bot side, going for level 3 off of these Raptors.
Yeah, level 3 here for Ryan, so he's going to get in here and cannot quite get that, but he does get the slow onto Revenger, isn't going to chase any further as 2 mid laners here. Looks like it was going the direction of Rem in terms of health, but at the end of the day, just trading back and forth, and the push is going to go the way of Nico this time around.
Ryan has gone for kind of a new school rune choice on some of these damaged junglers. Saw Peanut doing this on Graves quite a bit. A lot more lethal tempo, not just a Nocturne rune when it comes to junglers. Seeing it on the likes of Kindred and Graves, just to open up with Burst, that's the thing it provides there. Given how much of a trading window you have when you get in with the EWQ onto the Kindred, makes a lot of sense there. So just a kind of a new school thing when it comes to Korean choices. As Revenger doing his jungler solid, walking up as Lee Sin.
Yeah, I definitely have the feel that when you are playing this Nico, especially early on in the game, you kind of just want to show as much jungler as possible. Always keep them guessing, even if you are just going to walk into the lane and auto attack a couple of times. It's especially fun when it's a ranged jungler and you can also use their attack animation instead if you would like. Nico's not the cleanest I've experienced in terms of mid-lane attack animations. You can also just add that level of mind game as well.
It feels like the first champion released in a long time to kind of bring you back to the bad old days of Anivia and Karthus auto attacks.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Way back when. What I've noticed, I think it's not just that it's slow, because it does have a wind-up, right? But it's the third one is so fast that the rhythm is so weird. Again, though you have 2 annoying auto attacks, and then suddenly you're Corky for 1 auto attack. Yeah. Boom! So that one is a little tricky. Also, the fact that you get the passive on turrets helps with the pushing from the Nico as time goes on. Ryan looking for angles. We already alluded to the fact that level 4 Rumble has a lot to worry about. But even with a control ward down, no threat onto Rumble. Nice lane spacing from Carrot, who knows the wave is in a bad spot and is just trying to kite back at every moment.
See a lot of Ghost Poro nowadays, as it does seem like that domination tree does come out quite often, even without the Dark Harvest. We just see in both of these games, I believe, a couple of the players taking the Ghost Poro, so nice to see that becoming a staple in this matchup. One
of the reasons for that is it's permanent vision. There's not a lot of vision in this game, and permanent vision is those control wards that are in smaller stacks than ever before. So understand and like the Ghost Poro, just rotating back in after being in and out for a long time. Looking for a turret dive there, Revenger, but not level 6 yet. It's not a lot of threat from the Lee Sin. Kind of went as expected, though. Seems like Edge is in a really comfortable matchup now with no Akali, LeBlanc, Aurelia, nothing to close the distance, just poking away with his Q.
And take a look at Revenger. Right after 5 minutes, he goes over to this Cloud Drake. Going to be another first spawn Cloud Drake. Has the push from the Nico to come on over here, who does have his ultimate. I believe that's enough mana to go for the full combo. We'll see if Ryan can hit level 6 on these camps. Doesn't look like he will. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. Oh, he's able to dash away from it. The ultimate wasted there by Edge as a perfect response by Ryan. Gets him to safety. Is not going to go down. but at least the Cloud Drake does go to the side of MVP.
And I'm going to criticize Edge there. He just thought it would fall into his lap. He said this guy's going to walk into the brush, but he didn't play around that almost every player at the competitive level is going to lead with a ward. Not going to lead with his face when walking into a warning brush like that. Knew that the mid lane was missing. If he led with an offensive ability, would have been able to close the gap, but instead, bit of a snafu there from Edge means no kill to the Nico.
Could have even taken a step further, especially because Ryan was not level 6. Maybe he could have tried to go for some kind of flash engage, but yeah, just a little bit quick on the trigger. Is not going to be rewarded for that. So Edge does miss on that one. But again, the Cloud Drake was very nice. I mean, the Lee Sin kind of just clearing out all the other camps, decided, oh, there's no really great lane that I can go for in terms of a gank. Might as well take the new strong buffed Drakes that we do have in the game, and does pick it up fast.
And from that, I want to also talk about the speed of mid lane, because we saw Edge kind of having a fun time and Victor being frustrated. Victor now has the Death Ray evolve. He's got his E evolved, which is very, very standard for the mid lane, of course. First, that means he pushes fast, and one of the few things Nico can't do is push a wave super fast. Needs to prep the backline, and then the Booming Blast is able to take down with those multiple bounces. That's why in the duo role, when you see Nico bot lane, the support helps to prep the minions, and then Nico does the rest. Now Victor can actually push the wave pretty fast, and Nico has to be pushed in on, and that's one of the few ways to actually keep eyes on her at all time and know if she's swapping into another form, is when she's clearing minions under the turret.
Ryan here looking for a potential gank onto Carrot, but Lee Sin. Revenger is nearby, but unfortunately, Carrot looking like he was going to get into a bad position. Red buff is picked up there by the Kindred. Still not going to go for it. It's actually now Ryan's going for the invade. Not just going to go in there, though. Just goes over the wall. The blasting plant takes that away from the Lee Sin. And nice try there at a gank. Was just looking for the opportunity, but no overcommitment.
Gotta say, MVP have played around the expected gank pass of Ryan much better in this game. Shout out to Carrot, who's played around how much threat he's under very, very well. And that means there's been no snowball in the game, and Lee Sin has been able to get a free level 6 against a Kindred in a 1v1 matchup, which usually Kindred gets a couple of ganks off before Lee Sin can even farm the ultimate. So basically, they've allowed a Revenger enough time to comfortably farm to 6. Can he actually pay it off and make a big play now that he has his playmaking ultimate unlocked?
Blue buff going to be handed off. I wanted to see where the Kindred was in terms of marks as well. We saw him pick up the one in the topside river a little bit later on from the beginning of the game, but always good to get your Kindred online. Revenger looking for his first major gank, and they're actually going to clear out that ward real quick. That means that the Lee Sin could have an opportunity to get on in here, but again, it is Ezreal, Tom Kent. You were talking about earlier in the pick ban how basically it's going to be no ganks down there. But look at this. Revenger pretending to be the Lee Sin, but is going to be caught out here and does get stunned up. The clone is going to get away, but not the real Nico. And Edge forced to flash away from that one.
Shout out to the ward. Look on the screen, guys. At home, you can see that blue ward that just timed out next to the Gromp that spotted Lee Sin before. There was no ambiguity. They knew that that was the Nico. Nico has no way to deal with Victor in that sort of a range. Wants to keep range over her enemy. So that ward allowed GC Busan to push up in the bot side, irrespective of what lane matchup it was, and allowed the free chunk onto Edge and the free flash. So fantastic ward spot, gets GC Busan a lot of value, and now you see where Nico feels a bit more balanced compared to, say, a solo queue game where the deep vision is not there.
Keep tabs on the Nico, and no surprises will come to you. Also helps out with that victory you were talking about, just pushing it on in, and Edge not really having the most fun Nico game. Didn't have a fun Zoe game either, so hopefully he can find some more luck in the future. But yeah, still fun to see the Nico. We haven't really seen her team fighting ability just yet. And another objective we have to talk about is this Rift Herald. We saw it in game number 1 where they go for the 10-minute 30 start on that one. It's so good for taking out the plating and getting ahead in terms of that gold. And you saw the Lee Sin trying to go for it, but Ryan on the Kindred spots it, and it will not be taken down.
And I'm so impressed with Carrot as actually Mu is forced out of the bot lane because he keeps going for respectful trades and kiting back, and is only down 10-15 CS when he's played the entire laning phase like Kindred is there to gank him, and we know he actually was. He was there the entire time. He's had patchy vision at best, but has not been ganked one time. So very nicely played by Carrot. Means that no Rift Herald, no ganks. Rem pushes in the minion wave. Seems like the Rift Herald was delayed about a minute, but they've generally controlled this area. Carrots had to play on the back foot. This has to be the acceptable cost from the side of MVP.
It's going to go over to Ryan. You guys did just hear that. Picks it up. Nice control ward vision defensively by MVP in that area, but nothing truly offensive to get anything going where they can try to force a fight in their favor. So gives that one away. Revenger just going to have to be happy to take down another Cloud Drake to the side of MVP. At least they're going to be, ooh, close one. Not quite able to steal it away, but at least they are going to be fast on the side of MVP.
While it was close, remember, Ezreal does reduced damage to, I believe, minions and monsters. I know it is minions, certainly. The 50% reduced damage there means he can't snipe waves on the side lane like he used to in the old days. I came into casting with Wei Zhao, just trimming minion waves in the bot lane and the top lane when he was in mid. However, while that is a nerf on paper, he does that full damage to champions now. So Ezreal ult in a team fight can just do a casual 2,500 damage pretty reliably. So we'll track back to that one. And speaking of tracking back, Kindred's bot side.
Well, Boo really trying to bait that one. We'll see if Ryan can make anything happen here. Just trying to shut down the Tahm Kench is Garden. And it is going to get them to safety there as both Motive and Garden will survive with both of their summoners for both players available. And the gank will not be successful.
The mind games extend to 3v3. It's not even Nico involved, but still, all about burst ranges. Garden's ultimate, the Varus ultimate getting 50 damage is pretty relevant when you haven't scrimmed against 50 damage. Varus, here we go.
Okay, Ryan in a lot of trouble, but there's that Dragon Kick. Is still going to flash away from that one, as he did not want to overcommit with 3 members of the enemy team surrounding him. Says, well, I'll be happy to just get you low, and I'm not going to pick up the kill.
The moment that you go that far, you've already overcommitted in one way, but Lee Sin, flash up, able to get out. So ends up being a no harm, no foul. Bit of a party foul, I'd say, from Revenger on that one. Still no kills. We saw a lot of kills, but all of them kind of cascaded around a couple of skirmishes in game number 1. Everyone getting their gears, getting completely online with patch 8.24, and Fry's especially pretty happy with a scaling phase, as that Archangels can't be too far away from becoming a Seraph's Prince.
The Ryze going to be happy with that. Kindred eventually going to be extremely scary, not to mention the Victor and the Ezreal with the Tahm Kench to round that out and keep everybody safe. We have a nice engage tool on the side of MVP with that Rumble. I suppose that's part of what they were looking for. The rest of the members on the team not really having that long-range engage that the Equalizer does give to you.
And Rumble will fall away from being able to 1v1 the Ryze pretty quickly in this matchup. Once Merc Treads are there, even any more magic resist, and Rumble will have to be the teleport team fight, otherwise fall apart champion that he's kind of always been after the first round of nerfs. Looking to get this turret plating. It's already down, but looking to get this turret. First turret could be coming down very swiftly.
Nice bit of burst onto Carrot. You were mentioning it there, but look at the push in the mid lane that came out from the Victor, who's now here to support them. Lots of different members, 3 on 2 in the top lane, and the rotation from the bottom lane of GC Busan going into the mid lane. So essentially giving up their bottom lane for now, but they get the first blood turret and are also able to keep that mid lane alive.
GC Busan have been really smart about some of their play. They looked very ready for the meta in game number 1. And yes, they will eventually lose their bot lane turret, but they want to keep mid lane up as long as possible to allow Victor his death ray down those minions. They get the first brick gold, which, while reduced, is still there on patch 8.24. They're happy to have Ezreal wave clear, and GC Busan, nice movement around, and once again showing that if you can out-push Edge on this Nico, it's not the free-roaming Nico that you're certainly afraid of based on solo queue.
Still waiting for that moment for the Nico to pop off. Has been totally shut down so far. Certainly a lot of squishies on the side of GC Busan, but when you consider the Kindred ultimate, if it is timed perfectly and he doesn't get stunned or anything like that, he could definitely be a team saver. We might see Ryan right back onto the bus driver's seat once again on the Kindred, perhaps in a different way.
We're waiting. We're definitely table setting, no kills at 15 minutes. Both Drakes to MVP after not being able to pick up more than an Infernal in game number 1. Already, they look a bit more comfortable. They look a bit more with their wits rather than their wits end like they were in the previous game. And just walks up, taking a lot of free damage from Garden.
Not quite able to even lock that down. Now Moo in a bit of trouble, but is the Ezreal able to hop over the wall? At the end of the day, that That Scuttle Crab will go to the side of MVP. Still very even in terms of the gold, but you mentioned those 2 Cloud Drakes still on the side of MVP. Carrot still having trouble in the top side. Picks up his own Merc Treads, but now Soar just casually walking up to the tier 2 turret and saying, well, you can't really fight against me, so I'm just going to continue pushing until someone on your team wants to come up here and help you.
And what I'll say about the team comps is that if you ask me, okay, it's a farming game, who's going to be happy mid to late game? I think GC Busan have great lane assignment options. I think both Rise and Victor, once again, like game 1, happy to take the Rumble in a side lane, and Nico probably going to be also pretty susceptible. So given that, with the game going with more and more gold, I think GC Busan are kind of comfortable where the game is at. They can also put down wards easier with a Tahm Kench support. So they're pretty flexible here at GC Busan. MVP, once again, they want the siege, but they'll have to just rely on the Drake stack, already 3rd spawned at 17 minutes.
Yeah, they're really pushing for this Cloud Drake, but now the Rise coming down is going to be rooted. The Drake will go to the side of MVP, but now can they survive the lockdown there from the Rise? In goes Revenger, kicks him in, but the first blood goes to Ezreal. Make that a double kill now, as they're going to keep Soar alive. Carrot finally making his way through, followed up by Garden, is going to be able to pick up another kill, but Motive extremely low. In the end, they're going to have to back away. At the end of the day, Drake goes to MVP, but 2 kills to the Ezreal of GC Busan.
So important that Edge wasn't able to use his ultimate there. They're chasing onto Garden. Not going to be able to hit that tongue lash, not going to be able to close the distance, but that was so close. Always on a precipice. If Edge gets off the ult, things are different. Edge goes down, and while 3 Cloud Drakes is still something you don't want to deal with if you're the side of GC Busan, you're happy to take the mid lane turret, and the map control is still on your side. Gonna watch the replay here, and it's all about the pop blossom when you're against Nico. When will that ultimate be there with the shielding into that big AoE damage? Edge is just sniped down so low and then taken down, no reduced damage on that Ezreal ult anymore. Able to take down Soar. Surprising amount of damage from the Equalizer takes him down, and also the damage coming in from the Varus. But only a single kill. I think GC Busan, 1,700 gold, will still be happy enough with that position.
Yeah, in terms of the MVP for GC Busan, we heard the coach talking about the bottom lane. Well, Moo able to show up big time in that one with the snipe on top of Edge, but you look at the confidence and just the experience that Soar brings in, knows that he'll be safe to flash forward on the Rise and say, hey, I'm going to burst down the Nico. She's super squishy. She has Sork boots too, so no Merc Treads against Victor and Rise. Even the Ezreal doing a lot of magic damage in this kit now. You got to be careful that Nico could just blow up before she's doing anything in this game, really.
And we've glossed over Ezreal, but of course Ezreal was changed many patches ago, but still, after Worlds, so we still haven't seen new Ezreal in competitive play. Ryan not actually fast enough to be able to interrupt the recall there. I'm going to tell you, like I mentioned earlier, the ult just does a lot of damage because no reduced champion damage anymore. Previously it was whatever target it hits, the next one takes 10% less. Now it's full damage to champions at all times. But also, if you hit a WQ or a W ult, it does insane burst as the build comes together. Seems like Tahm Kench, though, he's going down.
Yeah, see you later. Just around the corner there was the Varus. Unfortunately, they're not able to get away from that one. So finally, MVP have a moment in this game to put some big pressure down. Who taking a lot of poke there from the Carrot. They're trying to force this turret down as fast as possible. Meanwhile, the Victor's on the top side. The Rise is in the bottom lane. They can't even get the turret just after getting that Tahm Kench. And so GC Busan going to keep their legs under them.
That's really important that MVP haven't been able to create the siege. It looked like the perfect siege moment, but enough wave clear on the side of GC Busan that they can't even get the turret, much less match the tempo of the side lanes. We've already indicated that we think GC Busan is going to have a significant advantage in the 1-3-1. So MVP want to make this a one-lane game. Not looking like a one-lane game, but definitely a bench Tahm Kench.
Well, they're able to do something so far in this best of 3. They killed the Tahm Kench. That's it for the replay. Don't get to the siege that wasn't able to get the turret. But it all does matter in the end of the day. Only the one extra kill goes over to the side of MVP. But that's going to be a scary Ezreal as the game goes along. He's got the most gold in the game. Does have that Kleptomancy, as he always will. This time the Victor not able to pick that one up, but still, so much gold.
Build path in solo queue, you still actually see some tier Ezreal because you get so much value out of ultimate that The W ult scaling off AP damage means you just do insane burst. However, the games are so fast that you understand always that duality when it comes to second tier. This is much more standard, the world's meta of going for the Blade of the Ruined King, and it's already pretty close as every ult is doing huge damage, and MVP have to deal with the side push and also the Ezreal harassment.
Well, it seems like MVP has been going for another solo queue strategy. Just send a bunch of members into one lane, catch the guy who pushed a little bit too far, was a little bit cocky in the side lane, and maybe take him out. But nice vision there by the side of GC Busan, able to keep Rem safe in the end. And Soar is just having his way with this bottom side up against the Rumble. You were mentioning it before, not really having a fun time against that Rise here.
He just doesn't have any moments in the 1v1. There's nothing he can do without help. Here's the help.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's going to be 3 members and the Equalizer. Soar this time around can't even get off a ring of skills there, so just goes down. The flash comes through from the Varus. He's able to pick up the kill.
Important point on the top side, MVP had a control ward on Baron, so usually you send your bot lane to gank the top laner, you lose Baron, at least Baron control. Neither happens in this scenario. They will lose an Ocean Drake, but when it comes to first spawns, that's the one you probably prefer if you're the side of MVP, so it ends up just being a bit of pressure abated, and they needed that given how Carrot was under turret for the better part of 23 minutes.
Definitely did. You see the Ezreal going super aggressive onto Garden. Has the Tom Kench there a little bit late, but here's Victor showing up with that Chaos Storm. One more tick will do it, but Ezreal steals the kill. Another one goes over to Rem as they get a double kill in the mid lane, and maybe now they'll consider the Baron.
That was some man mode stuff coming through from Moo. This is what the new and improved shiny Ezreal can do. Of all our new toys, the Ezreal was the one we thought we'd talk about the least. Instead, comes in as showing the full suite of all the cool things that the new Ezreal can do. Able to make that with an aggressive play, and now they say, MVP, what about Baron?
Well, if there's ever a moment for Nico to shine alongside of a Rumble, if the Equalizer can get up, this would be the time.
Need about 10 seconds for that one, Valdez.
Yeah, a lot of AoE magic damage that could come in here. Soar getting a little bit too close to the sun, trying to burst him down. They do have that one, and oh, Edge getting in there. There's the ultimate. Huge AoE damage with the Equalizer as well. Revenger getting in there, trying to take out Rem, but the double Victor stun is able to shut them down. And GC Busan, they don't care about your AoE magic damage. They're going to kill you and take the Baron.
There's the next level, next level. The ruse was in fact a clever ruse by GC Busan who picked up the kill. They're going to get Victor on the outside. Look at the damage, but the turnaround.
Okay, there you go. Moo getting extremely low. Can the Braum damage him? Yeah, he'll pick up the 800 gold as well on top of that shutdown. So he is able to get up, but the ace goes to GC Busan.
Man, what a fun move. Let's watch how this all happened. It looked bad because they were actually forced to use the Lambs despite it remains they can't rush down the Baron. Overcomes Edge. He gets in with the stealth, and the Pop Blossom is the Fiddlesticks ult that we know it can be. However, they can't take down Moo, and this Ezreal is insane.
Well, I mean, there have been a lot of highlights. You were mentioning basically a totally new roster for the side of GC Busan outside of Rem in the mid lane. But Moo coming on in here, having a fantastic performance. Ryan also helping out, really clean stuff on the side of his Kindred. Isn't able to save his Ezreal there. But still, just across the board, some really great play from GC Busan.
And of course, rosters are not locked for long, so will we be seeing an impressive AD carry in the LCK when AD carry talent was one of the most visible talents that were, of course, exported with the likes of Bang going to NA and Prey in semi-retirement, taking a break from competitive League of Legends. Moo has had a really impressive first series. Want to see him against some of the bigger names in Korea before we give him the trophy, but very nice start. The Ezreal definitely is looking very impressive. The Baron is down. They get the gold from that one. They had the buff on just a single member here onto Ryan on the top side of our screen. They walk up, and Ezreal can push faster than before now that his W affects turrets as well.
Very true. Just going to get the Banshee Veil out of Carrot as well, who always has to be careful there. Nice amount of poke now from the red buff Ezreal. Just trying to make things interesting, but nice amount of wave clear from the side of MVP, but nobody to deal with Soar still. The Rumble kind of feeling sore about this lane as well, as you can just see Soar ignoring the turret with that shield. Nearly is able to take out the Rumble on the backside. Is forcing Revenger into the mid lane, while Moo and the rest of them just locking down this bottom side turret.
Ult put down by the Victor. Just try to zone away from the turret. It's going to be successful here, probably even before the Demolish proc is used. This game is a timely reminder of why Rumble's fallen out of the meta, is that unfortunately, we saw the Pop Blossom, we saw the AoE, and we say, damn, that's some sick AoE damage. However, in every other game state but MVP laying down AoE ultimates, the Rumbles being out-traded or out-rotated. They only have the all-in AoE Deathfest, or GC Busan takes turrets one-on-one with Ryze, or gets advantages elsewhere. So unless they can recreate that Baron fight 2 or 3 times more, you have to light the GC Busan, just cribbing together more and more advantages. It's 5 turrets to 1.
They're unbelievably far ahead. Now they're really just trying to push as far as possible to get 1 turret. The rest of GC Busan trying to force this one. Azor thinking about a dangerous path into the enemy jungle. Isn't going to take that ultimate, but you can see all of the threats that they have. Very squishy, a lot of mobility. Surprisingly, even the Victor and the Ryze run very fast at the enemy. And Ezreal and Kindred, of course, going to be pretty mobile in terms of AD carries. So really trying to catch up, but MVP too fast for them.
Look, when you're 6,000 gold down, you got to pick your poison. And they'll definitely take GC Busan just going for linear engage, you know, using Q on a minion and running at you. That's the one you can deal with. It's face checking and it's side lanes where there'll be real issues for MVP. But in that scenario, that's kind of the best game state that MVP can hope for. Maybe an Infernal Drake to fight over. Maybe the next Baron is the areas where MVP can actually put their comp to good use. Let's look at the setup. If we look at the mini-map here, really not much around the Mountain Drake that has spawned here. So correction there, Mountain Drake should be a freebie for Ryan.
He's going to take that one by himself. The Victor returning to continue putting on the pressure in the side lane. But Soar not really in his position just yet. So they'll be fine to take another Mountain Drake, maybe go for that Baron that spawns faster now, by the way. Take some more objectives and not force anything here in this game.
I'm a really big fan of the Baron and Elder Dragon being the same death timer, because of course we had those awesome games. You can probably even name the teams in games where the Baron and the second Elder Dragon spawned at the same time. Like, so epic, what's the chances?
Yeah.
Now that might happen pretty reliably, given that the timers are no longer offset. So that will lead to some interesting macro choices in some of those rare long games. We're probably not going to get to double Elder Dragon anytime soon, but fun things to think about in the future. With the Mountain Drake being 15%, GC Busan have some good Baron and Elder Dragon destroying, and they were pretty good already. We'll see if MVP can get that one team fight, though, that they did comp for.
You can see 50 seconds until this Baron does spawn, and already GC Busan trying to set up the map. They don't have too great of Baron vision just yet, but you can see that Kindred goes back for a buy. Ryze down to the bottom side, Victor up to the top side. Get the 1-3-1 going, and then try to get some vision around the Baron. You got TP on the side of Soar. Victor's in the closer lane with his own cleanse, can get there very fast for himself. Question is, can they get Moo out of range here? Revenge are going to eat a bunch of damage on the backside from going a little bit too deep on that one.
It is the world's safest Ezreal. He has QSS, a Tahm Kench, and his flash was up. So even if he gets kicked, he can QSS the animation and just E or flash out of it. So very, very safe. Still a nice try coming in from Revenge. They feel like they have to try something, because otherwise, like we mentioned, other things being equal, Carrot's just dealing with this recurring pressure under the inhibitor turret now in bot lane.
Yeah, it's just an eventuality. We've talked about it before. He's having his fun with it. Now trying to poke a really nice ward on the left side of Rem. You can see right there is going to spot all of GC Busan. So MVP, actually fantastic positioning on that ward. Not one you'll see very often. And here comes Garden. The equalizer is going to go down onto Soar. Can Soar get out of here with that? Ultimate he will on the backside, but now he's trying to turn onto Garden, who flashes forward and says, "Nuh-uh, man, I'm going to take you down instead." GC Busan not going to start the Baron, even after Garden does get out of position, trying to go for the snipe.
Oh!
Nearly takes him out, but it's going to take down the Wolf and get enough health on the backside. GC Busan would rather fight than go for the Baron just yet. Not able to take down anyone on the opposite side, though.
It looked like a bronze ult, I should say iron ult, coming through from Garden, but he tried to predict Ryze's flash. Ryze just didn't flash. That's some Korean advice right there. Was able to get out of it for a moment, but after that, of course, the focus fire is taken down. But GC Busan, they know that Garden was chunked out. They're just on the Baron.
Here comes Ryan, says, "Get the hell out of here. This is our Baron."
He's back on it.
Yeah, down he goes. That's a very low cooldown. And trying to zone him out here is Rem. 1v3 potentially when it comes down to it. They're not comfortable to actually stay onto the Baron just yet. He misses his dash over the wall. Has to use Lamb's Respite, but the Pop Blossom kind of goes funnily the wrong direction. Can the steal come in? No! Victor is able to burst it down after the smite was a little bit early there from the side of Ryan. Now trying to go for the snipe on a Revenger. Nearly takes him out. But in the end, the importance there, the Baron goes to GC Busan.
So many things happen at Instant, it's hard to really recreate all. I'm going to watch the replay. Like you mentioned, a fail Q comes in from Ryan. He has to ult. Notice the ult is not over the Baron health. So, of course, they could have rushed down Baron. Revenger comes in. Smite at 925. Not enough health taken. Not enough true damage at level 14. Victor just about chance takes it away. Ryan's smite, I believe, was on cooldown as all that happened. So a very, very lucky trust fall does go the way of GC Busan.
So close there for Revenger. He hasn't really had the best series so far as one of the veterans on the side of MVP. This is Beyond we're talking about in the jungle. That was his moment to shine and try to go for the Baron steal on Lee Sin. Probably the best at stealing Barons, but unfortunately is not able to get that. And so GC Busan have another chance here to try to put this one away and say, hey, we're better than a former LCK team. We'll see if they can actually do it as the push begins.
All right, we see Garden is, of course, the Nico. We now know that it's very much going to be mid laner from MVP walking up here, looking for positioning, can auto attack without breaking anything. See how GC Busan react to this? Okay, Nico, the ruse is up. Just use the Q there for wave clear. No baits just yet. Revenger always going to be hunting for the insect kick as Moo. Those auto attacks doing huge damage to the inhibitor turret.
So mobile, so safe. We've seen this so many times before. The changes to Ezreal just make him even stronger alongside the Tom Kench.
Ezreal was buffed for solo queue win rate reasons. Of course, in competitive players, safety was the primary reason, even if his damage has never been massive. Korean Ezreal, we lost some of the best, but we got another one here in Moo having a great game. More Ezreal, now more pain.
Oh boy, Karen, at least he's able to get that equalizer down. Nice kick there, but the Lamb's Respite does get down from the side of Ryan, and that means that unfortunately Braum is going to go down. The flash forward, Soar, he wants to take this all the way to the round of 8. This is some really fantastic play.
This could just be it.
Out of the side of GC Busan, the Devour does come in from minutes, and Carrot gets super low. Soar is so aggressive, and so funnily so, he's nearly able to get another kill on the backside. Will they commit to the Nexus is the question. They still have the Baron for another minute, and of course they're going to commit to this one. Looking for some more kills, they take out Carrot, and the Nexus 2-0 victory goes to GC Busan.
And our first series will end 2-0 between MVP and GC Busan Rising Star. MVP returning with 2 of their squad, just a single from GC Busan, and like we outlined at the start, it's the 6th place challenger team taking down the 9th placed LCK team if we're basing it on LCK and Challengers Summer 2018. Still a lot to be worked out. Still the season, the 2019 season, is not written based on the KeSPA Cup, but a great first look at GC Busan as they will continue forward. And when it comes to single elimination tournaments, we already have to bid a very famous Korean esports org in MVP goodbye.
There you can see how distraught they were looking on the side of MVP. GC Busan themselves kind of, I don't know, a little bit somber on their side as well. I mean, they just won and made it to the round of 8. I feel like they should be ecstatic after that one, but they know that their road is not going to stop just here. They have a long way to go in order to make their name one of the big ones. Of course, Rising Star, sponsored by GC Busan, trying to bring that organization to the next level and bring it into the LCK in the future. But nice showing from them, 2-0ing MVP, made it look pretty easy. I love their aggressive play in game number 1 with the Assassins. Once that was shut down in the pick ban, they were able to transition pretty easally into a different type of composition and still were able to make it look good.
And I feel like our kind of very base level takeaway, not so much about specific picks, because it's one game, but the series is very much the proactive team, to the aggressive team, the spoils. The proactive team seems to really be leading here. It was great top lane sense by Carrot not to die to ganks, but they gave up Rift Herald. It felt like this game, once again, like game number 1, had an inevitable mid-game state where Rumble was a bit exposed, where Nico was a bit exposed. Think back to game number 1, where Zoe was a bit exposed. And from there, the games just end, Valdez. There's so much damage in the game that there's just no scaling, and the Pop Blossoms and all the cute moves from the Nico weren't enough to stop a GC Busan. Pretty damn clean 2-0.
Yeah, they just looked like the much better team, I have to say. It was only one best of 3, and MVP still struggling to get their roster and everybody on the same page. Even Maha, the new coach, former player for MVP, comes into the interview, the first interview, before even game number 1 starts, and he says, yeah, we're just really working on our teamwork still. We're not really concerned too much about pick ban. We pick stuff that we're comfortable with, champions that we know very well how to play and the players are good at, but their teamwork, overall, I think, was not on the same level as GC Busan, and it showed in that series.
But we can't use that as a crutch because GC Busan is 4 new members, and they're only the mid laner returning from a team that didn't really achieve much in Challengers. So there's really no participation awards here. Yes, MVP will be happy to get the run. You want to play a competitive game, but given the kind of exact same scenario, GC Busan showed a lot of great moves as we get to look over some highlights. And to me, it was all about Mu in game number 2, his Ezreal, and just the champion in general. A great re-debut from one of the evergreen champions of League of Legends.
Fortunately, his support got caught this time around, but some of the stuff he was able to do after this play, the play in the mid lane specifically, that's when you began to realize this guy knows how to play the new Ezreal to an insane level. Sora gets picked off on the right side, but he was doing his job. This is the play I'm talking about. Gets in there, the extra burst damage past the Braum, and then Victor Rem here, the one player from GC Busan from last year, able to follow up. They get 2 kills in the mid lane, are able to turn that into a Baron.
This was probably the big moment of the game around the Baron. We had a couple of different Baron plays. This is the first one that finally the Pop Blossom hits. We were waiting, everyone was excited to see that first competitive Pop Blossom. Actually hit multiple members. Didn't end up being enough because Ezreal, very, very tricky to take down. That was, of course, the first Baron of the game. Second Baron was probably the biggest flare point, but we saw a lot of action. This one only remained with one person standing after everything.
Yeah, it did mean that Ryan, at the end of the day, was the only member on the side of GC Busan with the Baron buff, but it was the second Baron that was really exciting, too. Super close on the smite. So
it was Pop Blossom, so it was
yeah.
Q. It was actually the bouncing blossom. The Q coming in as the Lee Sin smite, not enough. By the end, with the Baron buff, though, the composition came together too cleanly for the side of GC Busan, and Sure is at that point where you balance damage and tankiness' rise, where flashing into a Varus sounds like an easy challenge.
Well, damage charts also heavily in favor of the side of GC Busan. No surprise there, as this time it took a little bit longer with the different composition, 33 minutes instead of 28.
Good news to statisticians and people that play some quiz games. Remember, Ezreal always had very high DPM because he's a poke champion. He will basically at every point do more damage to champions because his ultimate does full damage to champions. So beating Ezreal in a damage chart now seems almost impossible.
Well, if you play like that and you don't get shut down in the early game, you have the safe laning phase that he did have. Pretty much no action down on the bottom side. That's going to happen. So guys, we are going to have the interview with our winning team. First team to win in the 2018 KeSPA Cup. This is Ryan from Team GC Busan Rising Star.
주목을 하고 계실 것 같습니다. 먼저 리안 선수의 좀 자기소개를 간단하게 들어볼까요?
네, 일단 저
A lot of fans were just really amazed by your performance in this first series. And what do you have to say? This is my first interview, he says. As a challengers team on GC Busan, they call me Rian, not Ryan. So Rian is what he calls himself. But he says he's very nervous. But he's just going to try to play his best.
아무래도 좀 첫 인터뷰라 긴장되시는 것 같아요.
Well, in the game, you're very aggressive and proactive, but on the camera, a little bit shy.
무려 ESC 에버가 캐스파컵 첫 회
But I was super amazed by your performance in this first series.
몇 해 동안 본인의 꾸준한 성장세를 이제 좀 피부로 느끼실 것 같아요.
So you're the first challenger team that comes in here and wins in the KeSPA Cup.
이렇게 좀 좋게 된 것 같아요.
오늘 본인의 경기력 좀
Well, I learned a lot from ESC ever. They're talking about they were the first challenger team to win the KeSPA Cup.
일단 카직스파는
And
제가 너무
felt
잘해가지고
good about that. How do you feel about your Kazakhs play, that 2-0 victory as well?
Let's hear his humble brag.
좀안 좋은 픽이라서 버티면서 후반
Very confident in my Kazakhs. I'm just trying to lead during the games with my Kazakhs.
경기 운영을 또 리안 선수가 보여줘서 앞으로가 더
But
기대된다는
not
말을
so much
정말
from the
여러
beginning of the
번
game into the late game as well. That's where he gets even stronger.
지배했던 경기가 아니었나 하는 생각이 듭니다. 이 경기 초반부터 라칸과 카직스가 맵을 굉장히 넓게 쓰면서
Kazakhs was super dominant in game number one.
주도권이 없었다면 경기가 좀 힘들어졌을 수도 있겠다라는 생각이 드는데
You were all over the map with that Kazakhs. It was insane.
좀 어떤 식으로 커뮤니케이션을 하셨나요?
일단 저가 처음에 미드 갱을 가서 미드 플래시를 뺐단 말이에요. 그래서 저희가 레드 싸움에서 하면 미드가 먼저 붙을 수 있고 해서 시야를 먹다가 카밀이 지울 타이밍 다 맞아가지고
So we tried to secure firstly the vision in the mid lane,
생각을 했어요.
and then try to lead the game from there.
후반까지 캐리하는 모습 정말 인상 깊었습니다. 이두
When we
번째
occupy the middle lane and put our pressure and vision there, we find that we are usually able to win the game from there. So they like to play around Rem and Ryan. That definitely showed in this one. They like to be aggressive and definitely showed in this 2-0 victory.
잘 쓰면서 대표할 수도 있었는데 그때 상황 리안 선수가 좀 설명해 주시겠어요?
그때
Asking about the skirmishes here. There was a lot of fun skirmishes in this
저희가 팔이
series.
엄청 꼬였단 말이에요.
네.
저희가 니코가 플래시로 들어와서 궁극기를 샜는데
We're very sure in our shot calling is also quite good, so they're able to just follow up after an initiation very easily and work as a team.
좋은 운영까지 보여주면서 2대0의 승리를 가져가셨습니다. 자, 이제 8강 진출한
So yeah, the games went really smoothly in your favor. So you've made it into the round of 8 of the KeSPA Cup.
기회지 않습니까? 어떤 팀을 좀 만나고 싶으신가요?
일단
So this is the only tournament where pro teams and challenger teams can play in the same
지네어
tournament.
거기 팀하고 일단 하고 있는 위너스였나? 위너스하고
네. 리버스 게이밍과 지네어 그리닝스의 승리팀을 만나게 되실 것 같아요.
네.
So we're playing against the winner of Winners and Jin-Air Green Wings.
팀하고 한번 해보고 싶어요.
Reverse Gaming.
앞으로 GC 부산 라이징 스타가 보여줄 저력들 정말 많은 분들이 기대하고 계실 것 같습니다. 지켜보고
Our translator is letting us know that he's nervous. You could actually see the sweat dripping from him.
Yeah.
So, you know, this is a new scene for everyone.
Some words to your fans.
네, 다시 한번
I'm going to play
축하드리고요.
really
인터뷰
hard
고맙습니다.
from here on
자,
out. So
이렇게
please
해서
supporting
오늘 첫
me.
번째 경기에서 승리를
Please keep
거둔
supporting me
GC
and
부산
GC
라이징 스타의
Busan
리안 선수와 함께했습니다.
in the future. And well, yeah, he was nervous, but he didn't really show it in the game, which is really where it matters, Papa Smithy. You got to go in there and you have to perform, and he certainly did tonight.
It's fun how the challengers play. It's probably much better playing the League of Legends than having to deal with a interview on this big stage for the KeSPA Cup. I actually liked what he talked about with mid, because think about the matchups Rem was drafting into. Assassins, in general, champions that needed something. The Victor needed a first item. The Assassin wanted the forward vision so that he could go aggressive on Akali to try to take down the Zoe. That was what Ryan's mid lane focus provided. And from there, we really didn't talk about Edge very much at all, because in the end, it felt like Rem was kind of just able to coast over him 2 games in a row.
Yeah, and I mean, we see what happens to the Nico as well once she kind of just gets pushed in. You're not able to roam. You can't pull off any sneaky stuff with pretending you're the jungler and coming in for a gank. You don't really have any map presence. That meant that the Kindred was all over the place. He was able to put pressure in the top lane, get the first blood turret, come to mid lane, get a couple of kills there, and get the turret. And so I feel like that play where they play around the mid lane and push it in, get the vision around there, and play from the mid to both to the side lanes really works out for their play style.
And to me, that was my learning as well. Is again, when I was looking at my prep, I kept thinking and saying, Nico will be amazing in the bot lane with that extra help in the wave clear, because we got the confirmation that if she's shoved in, turns out that if you try to counter roam, you can't make up the CS numbers. You just don't have the creeps that you missed, and that's
it's also
the big
really
problem.
Obvious, right?
Exactly.
You're missing the entire wave Y. I wonder where you could
You're
be.
conspicuous, and in general, you lose out on CS more and more. So Nico is a counter pick in the mid lane, maybe. Nico on the bot lane, Nico flex, and then that's the way forward, because they tried to power pick the Nico, and they definitely ended up looking a little bit silly for it.
Yeah, so guys, that's going to do it for our first best of 3 of the night. We are going to have Hanwha Life Esports up against KEG Seoul, so make sure you do tune in for that around 8 p.m. We'll see you then. Stay tuned.